You're sent from heaven. You're really mine. Oh, darling. Oh, darling. Oh, my darling.
Alright guys, I think I got you a bit of a better angle there finally. You should be able to see what's going on and shouldn't have my hands in the way. Let's put the fuel tank on and the oil tank. So you got two gaskets, one for the bottom of the fuel tank, and then you put your oil tank, oil reservoir, and oil pump on it, and then you put your next one on, and then your crankcase goes on. So before you do that, it's completely up to you guys, but I always run a tap through everything so that everything just fits up a little better. What you're looking for is a 5/16/18 national course. I've already run these through and I've already blown them out. So, like I say, I run the tap through and run the die also over the bolts. So again, that's a 5/16/18 national course. Tank's all cleaned out. Put your first gasket down on there. Get your oil tank. This one's been nice and heavily epoxied, so, but it hasn't leaked in quite a number of weeks, so I don't suspect it's going to start leaking. If it does, well, you know, we'll just keep an eye on it. I probably won't keep fuel in this tank anyway, so the worst that would be happening would be oil would get into where the fuel tank is, but that's not a huge issue either. What's more of an issue is if you get gas instead of oil onto the crankcase and into the piston. What I do is I pre-prime this. So down here in the bottom, so let me just pull this out, show you what's going on down here. Down at the bottom of this this standpipe, there's a check ball. There's also a screen down here at the bottom. This spring goes in. What I do, so that it doesn't take a whole lot of revolutions of the motor before the oil starts pumping, is I pre-prime this. There you go. I pre-prime that little I don't know what you'd call it, oil pump tower. This check ball goes this way, so you see the check ball at the bottom. The bottom should stay at the bottom, and then this goes this way. And you can test its operation just by pushing down on it, and you see it pushes the oil up, and it will also hold the oil inside there. So, like I say, that's pre-primed. There's oil in it. We can dump some more in there. There we go. And you can see how the action works on it. It just keeps on. There we go. Just keeps on pumping oil. But like I say, it's pre-primed. So you want it that way. You don't want the motor to have to spin over 24 times before it gets oil splashing around inside there. This then goes here on top of that, and it'll sit down on top of that guide. See how that just keeps pushing oil, just keeps pumping oil into that tray. And then your flinger at the bottom of your rod cap flings the oil around inside there. Anyway, we're not really talking about that right now, are we? So let's get that, just kind of clean that up. Get that all aligned. I bought these gaskets. They were very cheap actually to buy. So cheap I couldn't, well, I couldn't always make them myself, of course, but they're so cheap that I didn't think it was necessary to make them myself. Okay, and your second gasket is going to go on top of there. And from there, you're going to put your crankcase on top of this, and you're going to put your oil pump rod in, and that's going to match up with a hole that's in the bottom of the cam follower for your oil pump. So let's see if we can just get that done. I'm going to just shut you off because there's no way I'm going to be able to flip this all on its side and show you what I'm doing. So once I get it installed, I'll show you. Alright guys, so once you got your pump arm installed, which, you know what, probably by the time I messed around with it, getting it lined up, I probably could have just flipped the whole motor crankcase upside down. This is a tip for you guys if you're doing it. Don't do it the way I did it because it's a little bit more messing around. I didn't have to do it that way. Like I said, just flip your crankcase upside down, put your rod into there's a hole on the oil pump cam follower. Put it in there, put your oil pan upside down, slide it all in, and do it that way. And you could probably do it in a lot less time. It took me to get my big hands into this hole and kind of hold the cam follower up and put the rod in and push the pump spring down. And yeah, so there you go. There's a hint for you. Assemble it upside down. So your bolts on the bottom, crankcase to fuel tank to oil pump bolts, snug them up. Again, don't crank everything down all at once on one side. Tighten them down evenly. Just snug. You don't want to crank so hard that you break the casting. Just snug. You'll tell if you need to tighten it up later on because it'll seep a little bit. If it seeps, just snug it up ever so slightly. And there you go. That's more than good enough for me. Good. So that's fuel tank installed, oil pan installed, crankcase installed on the whole lot, and there you go. That's how that looks. Alright guys, so let's get started putting our magneto and flywheel on. Let's start with the magneto side. First of all, we need a gasket. And go like so. Here's your plate. We'll line up your holes. Easier if you put the gasket on first, obviously. It's a very thin gasket, so be careful not to rip it. I don't think there's any need to put any cement on, gasket cement or anything like that. I suppose you could if you want to. Well, let's put it this way. If I see that it starts leaking, I'll be pulling it off and I'll be putting a thicker gasket on. I won't put any cement on, like I said. I will just put a thicker gasket. There we go. So that's your gasket. You know what? Let's be sure to put a little bit of lube on that shaft. Like we had said, you don't want to start everything out dry. So, and you do have a bearing surface there. Okay, that's pretty good. Your coil plate goes on. It's up nice. And then we'll put our screws in, and I'll show you that, and when that side's all done, I'll show you that. So there you go. That's your coil plate fitted up with your back plate. So that side is done. It just needs the magneto installed, and we'll install the magneto after we put the flywheel in. So on the opposite side of the motor is your flywheel side. So you're going to have a few things. You're going to have your governor arm and your little puck that rides against the centrifugal plate inside the flywheel. And you can see how that works. And that's going to go on first. It's going to seat itself on that pole. That's how that goes. And then your plate is going to be installed with this gap, obviously. Here we are. Essentially like that. So I'll fasten that up and then we'll get back to you again. Alright guys, so I'll just show you how that works. I don't know if I did already, but on the inside you have a large washer basically, and as the flywheel spins around, so you have a centrifugal motion and it flings that washer out. So as it slows down, it moves the washer back here, and as it goes faster, it moves it out, which corresponds with this. It's actually, I think it's made out of wood actually. And as you can see, your governor arm, so that moves that back and forth. Install your Woodruff key. Your Woodruff key, I don't know if hopefully you guys can see that and it's bright enough in here for you. I took a standard Woodruff key that was close to this size and I filed it down to make it fit perfectly. So it should be snug, you shouldn't have to bang it in, and it should sit just level and just kind of proud of the crank, the taper end of that crank there. From there, put this flywheel on. That's just going to sit there. We're not going to tighten that down just yet. Actually, you know what? We can. We'll put the pulley on, which is also the bolt. Lock washer, of course. That's started on there. It's not reverse threaded, in case someone was thinking that. There's a lot of, looks like somebody had a pipe wrench on this at one point. You shouldn't have to do that. It really shouldn't be that tight. There we go. The other side is the magneto. Beforehand, in one of the previous videos I may have shown you, I'm not too sure if I did, but in the fit up, because this is a new coil armature, sorry, not new, but used, but not the one for this motor, the one that I had for this motor, the coil failed and it all came as one unit. So I guess you guys can kind of see that. So when I fitted it up, basically I had to use marker and covered the armature in blue markup, and then, you know, back and forth, take the magneto off, put it on, and just check for rub points. There were quite a few rub points. This whole area here had to be pulled down quite a bit. A little bit back here and a little bit down here as well. But you know, it's necessary to do that. Obviously you don't want to take it, you know, kind of smooth out some of the close, you know, the rough surfaces around the magnets on the magneto. But I don't want to take any weight off here, because this is, as you can see, you know, it's balanced, so you don't want to be doing that. So you take it off on your coil armature. I turn this my way, and I'm going to put that magneto on. we go. Sits like that. I'll lock it down now with the starter gear and pawl. A little spring in here on the back side. That's what gives you your pressure against the cogs on the pawl. You really can't get this messed up. This is the that's the nut. So it only goes one way. It doesn't go the other way. It won't actually fit. So there you go. It goes one way and turns the flywheel, turns the magneto clockwise. This goes on. You know, I've seen them a couple different ways with the locker on here, but that doesn't give you a very good flush fit, and I wanted a flush fit, so we go this way first, and then the locker goes inside. Like so. So, like I said, that goes inside there.